Welcome back, friend. So, today we are going to talk about all things wellness and really talking about how making time for you and yourself and giving yourself space isn't just a nice to have. It's not just like a day at the spa, treating yourself to, that latte, taking time away. It's actually a must. And it doesn't have to be those things. And one of the reasons that this actually came up is because this is something that I've been sitting with a lot for myself. And I recently had a hypno breathwork session. So if you've ever done any type of breathwork, I find it fascinating. So as a coach, and I'm really trained in neuroscience and mental fitness. Like I incorporate pieces for my clients of things like getting yourself into your body. So taking some deep breaths, doing what we call mental fitness reps, where you bring your attention to your senses, things like that. But I am not trained or certified in specific breath work. And the more that I have dove into the world of self-development and kind of uncovered. It's so funny whenever I talk to anybody else who has really gotten into either entrepreneurship, business ownership, or who has just been like engulfing themselves in self and personal development. We always say that it's like you uncover the secret world that you didn't know about. I actually had a client of mine talk about how she thought it was kind of like the Wizard of Oz. Like it's like this land that you discover, and once you discover it, like there's just all of these layers. And I feel like breath work and things like that is one of those things that I never knew much about. I didn't really understand. I didn't even know it was a thing. And then once I got into this world of entrepreneurship, I realized that there's all of these different layers for taking care of yourself. And I think I have found that it's even more prevalent because while I was always a high achiever, and I talked about before how I kind of burned myself out when I was working towards something that no longer felt aligned, which is really what I think happens with burnout is when you're either working towards something that no longer is aligned or you're not giving yourself space towards this thing that you want to really sit with it. Like you just keep grinding. And so while I would get there, it was at that point because I wasn't feeling aligned. At this point, when I'm feeling burnt out, it's because I love what I do so much. Like, I hope that if you're listening to this, or if you're somebody who's worked with me, interacted with me, sees me on social media, like, I love what I do so much. And I have stepped into this phase of like this visionary of all of these things I want to do, all these ideas for the podcast and for my speaking and for my programs that I run and books that I want to write. And so now when I find myself getting burnt out, it's because I am so passionate and lit up by what I do. But you kind of get that shiny object syndrome and you're like, I want to do all the things and what should I do first? So I have found that I've actually been burning myself out more now than ever because you're wearing so many hats. Right. So before I was on a team of people and it was easier to take vacation time because other people could pick things up and all of that. Whereas now, when you're starting a business, like you wear all of the hats. And if you're somebody who runs your own business or is starting your side hustle, whatever it might be, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Especially in the first couple years, like you wear all the hats, you do all the things. You're the salesperson, you're the face of it, you're the assistant, you're the marketer, like you're doing all the things. And so I have found over and over, these little, I would say like not full on, but like little burnouts that happen because I'll run full speed ahead at something. And it can be really hard when you're doing something you really love to take time away or to be able to unplug. I find myself on my phone a lot, checking in on things more. And so I have found it even more important now than ever. And I think just the world that we're in. I'm hearing this a lot from people, from my clients who are entrepreneurs, but also my clients who work in corporate, like this disengagement or the increased rate of burnout because people are exhausted, right? The last couple of years have been hard. We've been carrying a lot. We've had to pivot and change and evolve. And people have gotten away from things they love to do. They've gotten away from unplugging when they get home and relaxing and doing fun things and spending time with family. We always feel like we need to be plugged in. People feel like, people are trying to do more with less. So they're carrying a lot of things and companies with staffing. And so I'm hearing it across the board. So not just myself, but also in clients and from companies of people just really being more burned out. And so it's more important now than ever that we take care of ourselves. And yet we don't, right? We keep filling up everyone else's cups and trying to take care of work and friends and family and the house and all of the things. And we just keep burning ourselves out over and over and over again. And so I've been thinking about this a lot. And then as I was talking about with the breath work, I have not personally done a ton of actual like breath work from a trained person. I've done it. I did it one time. I was part of a mastermind and we did it there. And I thought it was really interesting. And then I actually recently just did a hypno breathwork session with somebody and it was amazing. And we did it virtually. So I just laid in my office and did the session and I loved it. So for me, I'm always trying out different things because I know how important it is in order for me to be able to show up and serve all of you and to hold the energy and space of people for the podcast and for talks and my clients. I need to be at my best and I know that, but sometimes it's hard. Like we don't take our own advice, right? It's easy for us to tell everyone else like, oh, you need to take a pause, you need to take a break, but it can be hard for ourselves. And so I've been really trying to tune into like, what are the things I've had a morning routine for years and years and years now, but sometimes it needs to change and evolve. And so I'm sort of in this interesting space right now of figuring out what do I want this new level of my health and well-being to look like? And what does taking time for me look like? And whenever I have these ideas for myself and I hear it from other people, I think, wow, that would be a great episode because I'm sure other people are thinking it too. So if you're feeling like you're running around all the time, if you feel like you're just keep burning out, if you feel like you don't know how to take time for yourself, what are those things that you can really be doing to take care of you? And remembering that it's not just a nice to have, like, oh, I'll do that when I'm on my vacation. It's a must, because if you don't do this, you're going to keep burning yourself out and you won't be able to operate at your highest and you won't be able to keep serving people in the way that you want. So we know that it's important. And I wanted to share a couple of the things that I have done, some sort of like wellness hacks and some things to think about. And I always like to put, whenever I talk about any wellness things, or I've talked about cold plunges and stuff before, like I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice. This is from either research of my own or things that I have tried that I wanted to share with you. So the first thing you really need to do is just figure out like what would it look like for you to feel. I'll share with you one of my words that I did in my breathwork session was peace. Like I want to find more peace instead of hustle, like the constant hustle and doing and doing and doing. And I said, what would it feel like to just be? I would like to embrace more of being instead of doing. And one of the words that came up for me was peace. So really thinking about, what does peace look like for me? What does that mean to me? Because it means something different to everybody. What does it feel like? And so the first thing I would suggest is really figuring out, what is it that you feel like you're missing or that you want? What is that word for you? And how do you know when you would feel it? And really thinking about that, whether that's journaling or maybe you meditate, but really thinking about what is it that you want to feel. And then coming up with like, what would your ideal schedule look like? Knowing that we can't maybe always make that exact happen, but what are those pieces that you would love to be doing during the day? I did this with a client recently who was really trying to work on this for herself and trying to find more space for herself. It was like, what would your ideal day look like? What would you be doing in a week ideally? And knowing that we can try and incorporate little pieces of that ideal week and start small, right? You don't have to do all of the things, but what are small things that you can do? And so really starting from that place, like what would be feasible for you? And then thinking through like, what are those wellness things that you like to do? We don't want to be doing things we hate, right? But what can we be doing to really take care of ourselves? So I want to share with you just some of the things that I do. Maybe it will prompt you. So for me, it starts with my morning routine. I love the morning. I am a morning person. I started the morning routine. Honestly, I have been doing it for so long, probably at least 8 years, I would say, that I have been getting up early. And I would say especially very consistently the last 6 years, ever since I had my son, because any other parents know that your day could be unpredictable or the night could be unpredictable. And so for me, I always wanted to make sure that I had at least had some alone private time in the morning. And so I started getting up early and carving out that time. And it was really hard at first because that I was not a morning person before that. But with anything, it's a habit, right? And the more that I did it, the easier it got. And now I'm to a point where I just naturally wake up and I actually crave it. Like I miss it if I don't have it. If I get off of that for multiple days, I actually miss it. When we're on vacation, when we go camping, I still have my morning routine because it's a part of who I am now. It's part of my identity. And we talk about that with when you create new habits, like making it a part of who you are. And so my morning routine, it's evolved a little bit over the years, but what I really like to do is I always make sure I wake up and drink a bunch of water first thing in the morning. So really starting your day, people don't drink enough water. So I start and I drink a bunch of water in the morning. I do, for me, depending upon if I'm going to be in front of people or not, and it looks like I'm tired, I put some under eye gels on, which is just part of the routine that I like to do now. And then I sit and have some quiet time where I journal. So I write down every morning 5 things that I am grateful for. And some days they're really big things. And some days it's I'm just grateful for this time right now. And then I write down, I journal on goals that I want to achieve. So I actually started this practice when I went to a Rachel Hollis conference. So Rachel Hollis was big in the personal development space and was having these conferences called Rise. And she actually did a journal, and it's called the Start Today Journal. And I've actually been doing that since, because that one, there's all different journals you can do, but that one really resonated with me. And I loved that you set sort of goals and things you want to achieve in the beginning. And then every single day you're writing down what you're grateful for, and you write down 10 dreams as if they've already happened. So I write things down as if they've already happened. Like I am a best-selling author. So you write these things that you want as if they've happened. And I just really love that practice. So I do that every morning. And then I usually also do some type of visualization, especially if I'm going to have an event coming up or if I have a big day, where I actually visualize myself just like crushing that day. So again, I write it as if I'm already there. Like I am so confident. I am so powerful. I am really engaging, and I visualize the whole thing out. And then I usually from there go to some type of workout. So for me, it's really important to move my body in the morning. I really love working out. I always have really been big into fitness. I've loved to try all different things. Kickboxing I had done before, and dancing and Zumba and lifting and any type of workout I really love. And that's actually something that has come up for me as well that I want to get back to. Like sometimes you can get stuck in the mundane. And that's why I say be willing to pivot and be open to it changing. So even though I have been waking up in the morning, going in the basement and doing my workout for a long time, when I start to feel like it's not lighting me up as much anymore, that's where I go, ooh, what do I want to do differently? And so I've started thinking about that. I want to incorporate more fun into that. So I'm looking at, joining classes again, or maybe taking a hip hop class or something fun to like switch it up. But so I always do that type of movement, and then I get ready for the day. So, getting my son up, getting him ready for the day. And then throughout the day, some of the things that I really incorporate for my wellness is drinking a lot of water. So I've got my big old water cup that I have with me. So trying to drink a lot of water during the day, trying to get movement during the day. So this is something that has been such a challenge for so many people, is now that we're all working from, not all, but many people are working from home more often. We're sitting in front of our computers. We're not moving enough. And so some things that I've been doing is really incorporating more walks. So I try and get at least 1, maybe 2 walks in a day. And sometimes they can only be 15 minutes, and I get out there for lunch and I can get outside. If you can get outside, that's amazing, because getting the sunlight and getting the fresh air can really reset your systems as well. But there's so many benefits to getting that movement in. And another thing that I actually did is I had a treadmill downstairs. I got a desk to go over my treadmill, so that if for some reason I'm not able to get outside for the walk, I can still do it downstairs. And then I've actually started incorporating more walking while I'm working. So if I'm working on content, if I'm writing emails, if I'm doing things, I can actually be doing it from the treadmill. And I find that I'm more creative and I'm getting my steps in. So that's been a really big thing for me, is incorporating more steps in throughout the day. Other things is, certain vitamins, minerals. Like I'm not going to recommend any specific ones to people, but I have done, I've shared my journey about my health things. And so I've done testing. And so making sure I'm staying top of things, like for me, vitamin D is a really important one. I live in Wisconsin and we don't get the strongest sun all the time, and based on my levels. So making sure I take vitamins and things like that also has really helped. And then at night, now I always try and be honest with you, right? We're friends talking. So my nighttime routine is one that I actually am really going to work on, because here's the thing. If you want to have a strong morning routine, you got to look at your nighttime routine, right? Because it's going to impact you. And so nighttime things that it's really important to do is, making sure that you have a consistent bedtime. And I used to be better at this. Like I used to joke that I was like a grandma because I would be in bed by like 9:30. Well, that's another thing that has kind of fallen off the wayside as I got busier, as I started finding myself working more at night. And, screens before bed, I think they recommend like 1 or 2 hours before bed. You don't look at screens because it's harder to make you sleep. It makes it harder to sleep. And so that's one of the things I'm recommitting to, is getting better at a bedtime routine, because I find myself working at night and then you want to have a little TV time or something like that. And so then I found myself staying up a little bit late. So really starting to create a bedtime routine can really be helpful. Like what are those calming things that you want to do? So some things that I've started incorporating, I'm going to incorporate even more, is we actually ended up finding these little couches, 2 little couches for our room with a little end table. And so we're kind of creating this little like nook that can be our downtime before we go to bed. And so started to drink more tea at night. So I'll make tea and then grab a book. This is the ideal. Again, I'm going to be honest, like I've only done this a few times, but this is one of the things I'm starting to incorporate more. And then grab a book and read with tea. Other things that I forgot to add that I started doing in the morning is cold plunging, right? So I also do that at night sometimes, but I forgot to talk that that was a new thing we have incorporated, is after my workout in the morning, starting to do a cold plunge. And if you look up the benefits of that, there are tons of benefits in terms of what it does for your body, your mind as well, resilience, what it does for your immune support, what it does for your muscles. So I started actually incorporating cold plunging. And why I thought of that with the bedtime routine is because the flip side, I started incorporating infrared sauna at night. So it really started for me with a lot of my health issues. One of the things that they talked about was you really need to be able to detox. So part of detoxing is sweating. And if you are somebody who is not sweating much, your pathways might be blocked. And so a big thing for me was I needed to start sweating. And so I started looking at saunas, and we found this infrared sauna. I am obsessed with it. I had been following so many people that were using saunas. I had gone to places and used saunas, but the amount of time that I needed to personally use it for my health journey, we started looking into our own. And so we got this, it's like a little tent one, which is great because it doesn't take up a lot of space, but it heats up really quick. Make sure that you're careful of any type of bad waves from the saunas. So I'm a researcher. So when I was looking into it, I was looking into all different options, and I found one that I loved and was safe. And so it's infrared sauna, and I have started incorporating that a couple nights a week, and I absolutely love that. It's very relaxing. Obviously, you're sweating, so you're sweating out toxins, and the infrared, in addition, has a ton of different health benefits for you as well. So that has been a great part of my routine. And then I like to lay in bed and read. For me, I'm an avid reader. In the mornings, I read for at least 10 pages. That was one of the things I started doing, is sometimes it's hard to commit to a whole big thing. So I said, what's something I can do to start small? So I said, I'm going to read 10 pages of professional development in the morning. I incorporate that. At night, I like to read just fun stuff. I call them chick flick books, where it's just rom-com, romantic comedy type books, or just light things, and then go to bed. So as I share these things, I just want you to think about, what are the things that you can start incorporating? Because I have built up over time to now I'm doing, even more. Those are the traditional things I do, but I do even more things now. So incorporating more massages, incorporating other health hacks, I like to call them. I go to this spa, and I do this oxygen, this oxygen that you can do. It's an oxygen bar, I think is what they call it. And I also do this like Hypervibe machine there, which is really good for your lymphatic system. And I also do for my Lyme's disease that we're working on healing. We do something called it's like ozone therapy, and it's called the Hockett and a Hugo. Like, if you're fascinated in this stuff, look it up because I find it absolutely fascinating. But ozone therapy has so many benefits for you, especially if you have certain health issues. It's really great for people with Lyme's, for people with other types of autoimmune things. It's really actually beneficial for people with cancer. Like, the research behind it is so cool. So I have like become sort of obsessed with sort of these like health hacks. But the thing is I didn't go from where I was to where I am now overnight. This has been years of adding things on and kind of playing around with what works for me and what's fun. So I want you to think about, what can you start incorporating? Like, one little thing. For me, it started with my morning routine. I felt like I was home with this baby when Sawyer was young and I didn't have time for myself. And so I was like, what can I do for myself and when can I have time? It started with the morning routine. And all I did then, what I was doing workout while he was in his little swing in the living room. And then I've added on more as I've learned more. I've added on gratitude and I added on visualization. And then I started to add on things like the cold plunge and all of these other things. And I add them on over time and be willing to pivot and adjust. But at the end of the day, the real thing is you have to do something. You have to do something for you, even if it's just one thing that you can do, and make it fun. Like, I'm going to incorporate more fun into these things as well. Take a dance class, sign up for something that you really love. But these aren't nice to haves. These are musts, because if you keep pouring into everybody else and not taking care of yourself, you're going to burn out. You're going to burn out. Oh, and if you probably have, and you're going to burn out over and over and over again. So I hope in me sharing some of the fun things I have done and I have learned and the things that I incorporate for my wellness, it makes you think about things that you want to incorporate for yours and what's going to help get you there. And just remember that you need to take care of you first. There's a reason they tell you to put your oxygen mask on first, because you can't keep serving and showing up for people if you're not taking care of yourself. So I would love, love, love if you share with me, what are some of your wellness hacks, your wellness tips, things that you love to do. Share those with me, because I'm always open to trying new things. And I hope that this episode gave you some things to think about when it comes to making sure you make time for you.